So much for having me, Colin.
Just very briefly, what can we expect tonight when the report is released?
We do know that the way the report is going to be announced and the recommendations from the report is going to be a bit of an unusual circumstance. It will not follow the norm where we anticipated that the president would either make the announcement either in Parliament or he would call a press briefing and brief the media about it. So what we understand is that the president will be making this announcement in the Union buildings, but it will be broadcast specifically on the SABC. So it's going to be quite an unusual circumstance, and it can only lead us to speculate about what some of the key findings will be of the recommendations. Mm-hmm.
What are some of the highlights of these hearings for you as a person who has been covering this story, attending all the hearings in Rustenburg at the Civic Center, and they were moved from the Civic Center to Centurion now? How has it been like for you?
It's been such an overwhelming experience. I mean, this is something that has never been seen in South Africa, in post-democratic South Africa since 1994. So just the level of emotions that has been shown from people, getting to know the widows from, the 34 men who were brutally gunned down by the police, and also getting to know the widows of the 10 other men who were killed in the days leading up to the Marikana events. So it's been such an overwhelming experience just to speak to them and hear their emotions and hear what they have to say for themselves about, I spoke to one of the women. Her name is Aisha Fundi. Her husband, Hasina Fundi, was the gentleman who was a lawman security guard who was hacked. And she was telling me how, for her, she could not believe it when they took her to the morgue to go and identify her husband's body, because she felt for her it was not her husband's body. She couldn't believe the extent of damage, the way he had been so brutally hacked and parts of his body removed. So for her, hearing from Mr. X, one of the controversial witnesses at the Marikana Report, hearing him explain how exactly her husband was killed, for her was such a soothing and it was a chance for her to heal at that moment. So moments like that were so important for me, because it's issues that constantly resonate.
Mm-hmm. One would remember the likes of Mr. X, others would remember the catchy interrogations which were heated. Tell us about them. It
was really quite an auditorium full of some of South Africa's brilliant legal minds, regardless of whichever spectrum, from the police, from AMCU, from the lawyers for the injured and arrested miners. It's just also listening to what the judges themselves had to say, and the dialogue and the constant backwards and forwards and the legal terms and key issues that were discussed and debated in the proceedings, the Marikana proceedings. It was something that we'd never seen in the country, and it was amazing.
And the cross-examinations, we'd see some of the clips on social media, like on Facebook. I remember Susan Shabangu also, during her heated cross-examination with Advocate Dali Mpofu and Cyril Ramaphosa, also being under serious cross-examination from Advocate Dali Mpofu. Tell us about what you remember about some of those interrogations.
What I do remember was the reaction from the heated debate between Advocate Dali Mpofu, who represents the injured miners, and Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, you understand what Dali Mpofu was trying to say is that the relationship between Deputy President, lawmen, and government was an insidious relationship. He was trying to allude to that. And, just the response from the Deputy President, where he'd made the allusion, the fact that Dali had perhaps, maybe, it was a conversation between the two of them, but the fact that Dali had suggested that Deputy President help him become a silk, which is one of the highest levels you can become as a senior counsel. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the Deputy President brought that back and said, if you're asking me to help you become a silk, would that then be an insidious relationship between the two of us? Moments like that are moments that really will stay etched in the minds of a lot of people who followed the Marikana Commission, hearings. Mm. But overall, I think for a lot of people, what was hoped is that the three judges Tokota, Hemraj, and Ian Farlam, what's hoped is that their recommendations that they sent to the president will be fair, will be equitable, We'll make sure that those who were responsible for the killings are held to account and serious punitive measures are taken, regardless of whatever position people hold. So I think that's the biggest outcome that people are hoping will come out of it. And I think people are hoping that the president will then be able to say, you know, these are the recommendations, this is what I think should happen, and we will find some resolution.
Nozintombi, just before you go, I wouldn't end this interview without asking about the situation in Marikana. What do you think the mood is like? People looking in anticipation of the report?
Certainly anticipation, but I think the mood will definitely be one of tension. It will definitely be tense, because you remember that the different unions in Marikana, the NUM and AMCU, the different factions are hoping to be validated by the report. Either the president is going to say the NUM was at fault because they did ABC, or AMCU was at fault because of whatever it is that they did. So you can understand that all the miners there themselves who've been dealing with the tensions and some of their colleagues being shot down and killed in retaliatory attacks, they are waiting with bated breath to hear exactly who was to blame, who was at fault, what punitive measures will be taken against the 170-odd miners that were eventually arrested. So it certainly will be a tense situation in Marikana tonight.
You are almost about to draw the curtain on your coverage of this story, but thank you very much. I must say you have done a sterling job, and keep it up.
Thank you so much, Colin.
We're hoping to hear reactions to the report once it's released. And of course, the lady will be on the story. She's not going to stop working now, that is. And going on to